Hi, I'm Sarah Seberg. Welcome to Kingdom Real. Today, I have a fantastic guest that I've been getting to know. Her name is Rosine.
And my name is Rosine Yairato.
I thought she would help me with that.
Yes.
So we're just going to go ahead and get started. And I just want to hear a little bit about your background, your family of origin, where are you originally from? Just tell us some of that.
Okay. So, like I say, my name is Rosine Yairato. I was born in the family of 5. So I had a mother, a father, an older brother, myself, and my younger sister. I was born in Togo, specifically Lomé, which is the capital city of Togo. And I grew up with interesting people. My hometown, or the compound where I grew up in, we called that, there was a name that it was called, and that name, if you translate it into English, is called a House of Nations.
Oh, wow.
Because everyone from every tribe, from every country you can think of, lives there. Either people from Benin, people from Ghana, all the people have lived in that house from different tribes. So there was a lot of fighting, but there was a lot of joy also, because
Right.
things were different. People were different in their thinking, in the things they do each and every day, what they believe, their value system. But over time, I think we learned to live with each other.
Yeah.
And in my surrounding, also in the area where I was, we had the poor, the rich, the Muslim, the Christians, and the idol worshippers. Everyone lived in that neighborhood.
Wow.
And if you look at the surrounding, there's a police station nearby, there is a university nearby, there are churches nearby, and then you see idol worshippers with their temples nearby. So I grew
Wow.
up in an area that was pretty diverse in everything you can think of. And over time, as I go on with my story, I think God used that to impact my life in the things I've done, things that I'm doing for God in the kingdom, and how He has led me and maybe protected me from things, and but also exposed me to some things that will help me according to His purpose for my life.
Right.
Yes,
Right from the start.
from the story. Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's talk about your story.
Okay.
So just kind of wherever you want to start with your story, that's what I want to hear from you.
I grew up in Togo, like I said. I grew up there and I lived with my parents until my father got sick. He got sick and he had hernia, and we had operation twice before. I think the third time it just became really worse. It just didn't fix anything. So he had to move into the village, and we stayed with our mom in the city. And when I was about the age of 12, almost 13, so I'm thinking early 2003, that's when I was 13. I was 12, almost 13. My aunt, who had a child for my father's oldest brother, came and sold a vision or a dream, the American dream, the fantastic dream, the American dream. If you hear about America, you should go. America, France, everything that is European back then was good. So
right.
she sold this dream of going back to school, working, and taking care of your family and having a better future than what you have for yourself in Togo at that time. So that dream seemed fine. But a year or two prior to that, before my father got really sick, they sold the same dream. He said no, because he believed that he wanted to raise me, send me to school, and be a doctor. But his hope is that I will go to school in France,
Okay.
in France,
Yep.
because my country is a francophone, or a French-speaking country, we should
Sure.
say. So my father wanted to send me to France, get a degree in medicine, come back home, and help the people. The dream seemed fine. Love my father. Whatever he said was good for me. I grew up in a Catholic family, so our life was church on Sunday. Didn't talk about God a lot throughout the week, but I was a Christian. And I think after that dream was sold to us in 2003, early 2003, I joined my aunt, who had a child for my uncle. The lady who had a child for my uncle, I'm calling her my aunt. I moved into her house in Lomé, not too far from my parents, but far enough that I would need transportation to get to my parents' house. Same city, but this is a
Sure.
distance. So I lived there, and I didn't know what's going on, but I know that I was gonna have a dream. I was gonna have a life in America. I remember one morning they came to me and said that this person is your husband. I was almost 13 years old, but this person will be a fake husband that you need to marry. Then when you get to the U.S., everybody goes their separate way. That's how people get to the U.S.
Okay.
Mind me, I don't know, or I didn't know that these things were illegal. Okay, I just thought that's the way people got to America, France, Germany, every other European country you can think of. But she had a scheme business, okay, where people will have, when they win their lottery visa, if they play the lottery visa and they win and they don't have a way to get to the U.S., she will provide support or money or other things that they might need in order for them to get approved for that visa and moved here. Maybe she might give them an address to show to the embassy, the U.S. embassy in Togo, that they will live in this state, this address. Or maybe she might buy a ticket for them if they don't have the money to buy the plane ticket to get to the U.S., or if they don't have money to go through the exams and get their passports. She will use her contacts and influence some things and then bring them to the U.S. But in turn, for you to get that help from her, you have to marry one of the girls fakely. You have to be a fake husband to one of the girls in her house. So I happened to be one of those girls there. I just got there. There were other girls in the house before I was there, but they put me into the paper, and everybody was saying that I was lucky. So I had to feel lucky. Right. Everyone said, "You're lucky. You just got here." Some people have been sitting here for 2 years. They haven't got that chance, and now I feel lucky because everybody's saying I feel lucky.
Right.
And I went to the embassy, had to pretend to be somebody's wife. I was 13 at that time, or close to 13, and he was way older. And my name was now Rosine in that document. My name was actually Sophie with his last name.
Wow.
And my age was 19 in that document, so that I can get married to him. And we took these fake pictures at the beach. We actually did. I was actually in a wedding dress at the age of 13. But that's how people got to the U.S. And Rosine, you are lucky. So just live with it. So we got the papers, the documents, showed to the embassy. We went for the interview. They approved the document. I got my visa. That was good. Now, the guy left, went his way in May 2003. And then in June 2003, I got my ticket. Said, "Here, you're going to the U.S." I packed my stuff that morning. Guy on a plane came and landed in Los Angeles, California. So I got to Los Angeles, California in June 2003 at the age of 13 now. And I didn't speak any English. All I knew was Ewe. I understood my mom's, I knew Ewe. I understood my mom's dialect, which is Wati, and I spoke French. And I was a 7th grader before I left. So that's what I remember. That was all I knew. So I got to the U.S. I got to Los Angeles, California. And the next thing I know is that I was braiding hair. My cousin.
Who picked you up from the airport? You're by yourself, right? So who picked you up from the airport? Where did you go from there?
Okay. So my aunt that I'm speaking of, her son that she had from my older uncle, my father's oldest brother, he picked me up at the airport, got my passport, right, when I landed in California. And the next thing I know, the next day, I went to work in a hair salon. And I was doing hair. And I think maybe about 6 weeks, 8 weeks into that, he decided to open a business, a hair salon. And the business started okay, but it didn't work out well because this is California. We don't have any other job.
Right.
And it wasn't gonna work. But he had this dream that he wanted to become a movie star. He was writing his own movie actually to become a movie star, and it wasn't working either. So we moved back to New Jersey. Now in New Jersey, there were other girls in other houses that were trafficked before I got there, but I didn't know them yet. They were in a different house. I joined them in one of the house, and all I did was to go to work, braid hair, and come home. I would go to work, leave the house around 8 o'clock. Sometimes we don't get home until midnight. Sometimes we don't get home until 9 p.m. Sometimes until 1 a.m. sometimes. And you sleep a little bit, wake up in the morning, eat rice and chicken, pack rice and chicken for yourself. They pick you up, drop you off at work, whatever you work, and then you bring that check at the end of the week and I would hand it to my cousin or his mom or whoever that was in charge in the house.
Right.
And that's what I did for a while. Now, when we moved back to New Jersey, that was at the end of 2003.
Okay.
Now, at the beginning of 2004, the Rosine in me just couldn't rest. I just knew something was wrong. Like,
Right.
why are we giving you money all the time? You're not working. I'm working. I'm giving you money. I'm
Right.
not buying what I want to buy. You're keeping my tips, my money, everything. I can't keep anything. So I started retaliating a lot. I became what they would call stubborn. They would say I was stubborn, and there was a lot of things. I remember that one day, actually, my aunt got so mad at me. Don't know exactly what was the reason, but she said that I said something or did something that I don't even remember what it was. But she came downstairs because we live in a 2-story apartment.
Okay.
And she went downstairs. I was in the kitchen cooking. I remember I came back from work one of those days where it was a long day cooking, trying to find something to eat that night and pack the rest for the next day. And I just saw someone threw utensils and things at me. And I had to run through the back door. And it was the middle of February. It was in the middle of February that time, 2004. And I had no shoes on. I was wearing a skirt. And I ran outside, had like a very short t-shirt or something on. I was in the kitchen, so I wasn't planning on going outside.
Right.
So I went to the back, and I was there, and she wouldn't let me back in. Like, everyone is trying to hold her. She said all kinds of stuff that I didn't do, didn't make any sense. But she was trying to find a way to tell the other girls that I was a bad person,
Right.
that they shouldn't hang out with me or listen to me. So she did all this stuff, and then after some hours, she went back upstairs, and her own children, she had two other children besides my cousin,
Okay.
brought me back inside of the house. Say, okay, she's asleep now, you can come back to the house. But it was really damaging. It damaged like my sense of everything that I knew
Right.
at that time. It's like, do I sleep with one eye open?
Right.
Or do I get ready to kill her before she kills me? You don't know what's gonna happen.
And you're 14 at the time?
I was 14 at that time. Yeah. So it was probably not quite 14, because if it was February 2004,
So almost
I was
14.
like almost 14, because my birthday is in March. So, yes. The next day, I was drive to work like nothing else happened the night before. Just took back to work, come back home, continue until we moved from that house, the downstairs, into a different house with my cousin and two other girls that joined us.
Okay.
But the other girls that were there before I got to the US still remained in the house with my aunt that wanted to kill me that night, that fateful night.
Right.
So they stayed there, but I joined my cousin in a different place. So, of course, I continue, like always, asking why we're not getting paid. Why am I giving my money? And if they try to beat me, I say I will call the cops. And other people didn't know anything about 911, but I knew somehow,
Right.
because I watch a lot of movies. I
Sure.
watched a lot of things with subtitles. I started learning English. I started seeing things that are not supposed to be that way. This is abuse. Everything is against what I believed I was supposed to be doing in the U.S.
Right.
Why am I not going to school? So I was questioning
Yeah.
them a lot. And I think one day, this was when it became a problem. That one day they came home, my cousin dropped me to work that day, and I was really tired, very sick. It was flu. I was not feeling well, but he dropped me at work. And then like nothing happened. I worked and I came home that day, and I went to the room to sleep because I was really tired and
Right.
I was not feeling well. Then he came, he said that he wanted people to cook for him. So okay, well, there are other girls in the kitchen, about 3 other girls in the kitchen cooking, and he's a very thin person, barely eats anything. He literally doesn't have any appetite. He doesn't eat. So I said, well, they don't even believe in my cooking. They don't believe in everything I do. They don't like anything I do anyway. So let me go back to the room. And then he said, well, if you don't come out of the room, I'm going to do this and this. I didn't care. I went back to the room. Like a teenager doesn't care when you're yelling at them. So
Right.
I went back to the room, and he came to the house and got a whip. You know, those things they use on horses. He got those things and whooped me like really, really bad. And didn't say sorry or nothing. And I still didn't join anyone in the kitchen. I was so mad I didn't do anything. Then the next day was supposed to be the day that I get paid. So I went to work, and then they paid me. I came home. I said, I lost the check. And they said, well, look for it again. I said, I don't have it. I helped them to look for it. I said, but I didn't find it. So they kept saying all kinds of stuff. I think you have the check. You didn't do this, and you didn't have the money. How come you didn't have the money? I said, well, I don't have it. And I guess finally they find out that, okay, this girl just doesn't want to give us the money.
Right.
And then they use all kinds of threats. Anything they can think of to scare me. I wasn't moved. I was like, okay, I'm not going to give you this money. I don't have it. And finally, he kind of just gave up. And over time, I continued to not give them other things. I started giving my money. When I get paid, I give it to him. But that one specifically, I didn't give it to him because he beat me up and I need money to relax my mind. It's like my own self-therapy.
Right.
So I didn't give him any money. But then I started giving him money again weeks after week when I get paid. I'll keep my tips. When other people will give their tips, I didn't give that. They had a big piggy bank that you have to put your money in. You have to write how much you put in there. I'll go and write my name, but I don't put any money in it. So I was frustrating these people's life.
Right.
To the point where they just couldn't take it anymore. Then they got me again. First, in Togo, they sold me the dream of going to school. The second time, this time that they got me was my dad. He said, your dad is sick. He wants to see you just in case he dies. So I heard my dad. I said, okay, Dad, I'm going to see my dad. So I followed them, joined them in the plane, got to Togo, and everything was different. My life was different.
What happened when you got back to Togo?
So when I got back to Togo, there was already news, fake news about me being spread that I was a prostitute. I was stealing. I was doing all kinds of stuff that I wasn't doing.
Right.
And because they couldn't find anything else to nail me to Togo with, that was the only thing. I was a Togolese. I was an airway girl. You don't say those things about airway girls because you're destroying their image
Right.
in the public, in their family, and possibly with someone that will come to marry them. So if they hear things like that, they will say no to the girl. No matter how good you are, how you've changed your life, going to prostitution is a way, no. So they say all these things and try to tarnish my image there. And to the point where when my father died, the family gathered and buried my father before they called us, the children, because of everything they have heard. And even at the funeral, I was hearing things like, oh, that's her daughter, his daughter that went to America and did this, and this, and now she's back. So everyone was saying those things, and I was just hearing those things from everyone. And then we buried my father, and then I went back to the city. Now, when I was in the city, remember, my aunt was a specialized fraud person. She's just a fraudster. She can fraud anything,
right,
anytime, anyhow. So she has lots of enemies. One of the enemies that she had at the time was the man that I was supposed to be married to come to the U.S.
Originally, you first came.
Yes. Okay. And he was supposed to go his own way and sign a divorce paper and go his separate way. But he never signed the divorce paper. And he heard that I was in Togo. And my life was not looking as great. And these are some of the things that my family was doing. And he said, okay, I will help. So he sent those documents back to the U.S. Embassy in Togo saying, okay, this is my wife. This is this and this and that. The family kept her away from me. I've not seen her. That was his lie. So all I have to do is to go to the embassy and say, it's me. My documents have been taken, everything, and now I need another document. And they gave it to me. They signed papers, and finally I got everything together. I got my Togolese passport, everything, and I was ready to come back to the U.S. Now, these things, this help that he was offering was happening before my father died. So once he heard my father died, instead of just helping me to come to the U.S., and when I get here to pay him for the losses, like the ticket money that he used, the airfare and everything that he used to help me with the passport, now he changed his mind. Now he became a deceiver, just like my aunt. He said that, okay, your father's dead. Because if you don't have a male figure in your life as a girl, as a female, then you literally have no covering. So he saw an opportunity to take advantage of the situation. Now he said, okay, everything is ready. You're supposed to come to the U.S. But if you don't want to come and be my real wife at this time around, then I don't want to help you anymore. So you have a choice. Now, my mother heard that. She heard everything else my family and other people have been saying about me. The shame is there, the disgrace is there, the regret, everything is going on. In whatever strength that she has left, she said, either you choose him or you are just owned. You're not going to live in my house. What are you going to choose? And I was bold, and as courageous as I was, I said, no, I'm not going to marry. I called him some names, okay?
Sure.
But I'm just going to say that beautiful one. I called him names, okay?
Yeah.
I said, I'm not going to marry that one. And over time, I realized I had no option but to go back. And I came to the U.S., and I had to stay with him and be his wife at this time. But when I got to him, we didn't marry in a court. I still have my fake documents. I had my kids. They still bear that name on their birth certificate. Until recently, of course. But I had 2 kids for him. By the time I was when I was 17, I had 2 kids for him by the time I was 17. But when I lived with him, by the time I moved back to the U.S., when I moved back to the U.S., he was living in Rushville, Illinois. But by the time I left him between 2005, September 2005, until December 2007, we've lived in, I think, 4 different states. Because he moved around a lot. He's always causing trouble. He does something else there. He was a drunk. That's one of his weaknesses. He was a drunk and a liar and doing frauds and deceiving people. He had his own things that were going on. So we were always moving around. But this time I was in Sioux City, Iowa, pregnant with my last son. I had 2 boys for him. My last son, I was pregnant with him. In early September 2007, we heard that the houses in New Jersey got busted, where those people got rescued by the ICE officers. And
so your aunt and your cousin and that whole operation that they had been running.
Yes.
Okay.
Has been busted. So they took all the money, shut down their stores and their business. And now I guess people were talking about the girl that was very stubborn. So that was me. And they came and found me in Iowa and brought me to Michigan because I was still underage.
Right.
I shouldn't even be married to anybody. So they
Exactly.
saved me from that. They was trying to save everyone from human trafficking. But me, I've already graduated from human trafficking
Right.
to the worst, which is being a child bride.
Yeah.
So to save me from there, they brought me through the Bethany Christian Services, brought me to Michigan. And I was offered a foster home in Conklin, Michigan, with 2 young, well-meaning parents, but just didn't have the tools to understand the cultural difference of raising someone who was a mother and a wife yesterday, and today she's a child.
I can't imagine.
So those things take time, and I don't think they had the time or the tools to go through it.
Sure.
So about 10 days later, they moved me to another foster home with my 2 boys, and we lived there until I was 18. And then my children's father moved here, followed me here again. And when I turned 18, I moved back with him. And things got really worse. I think I needed to see that to actually break off of that.
Right.
So I think I needed another dose of abuse to break off of it finally.
Yeah.
And then I broke out of that, lived with a friend, and we haven't seen him since then. But I went back to school, finished high school. Remember, the last time I was in school was when I was in 7th grade.
Right.
And now I'm in 10th grade in America, English-speaking country. It's not French. It's not what I've known. But I had 2 years to graduate. So I tried to graduate, and I graduated by the time I was 20. I graduated from high school, went to GRCC, our community college, for a while. Tried to pursue medical degree. But after a while, I realized that wasn't my dream. It was my father's dream for me.
Right.
So I took a pause in 2012. And then in 2017, I started feeling that God was leading me to go back to school. And specifically, he wanted me to go back to school and earn a degree in ministry, in theology, in biblical studies. So I went back to school and I did everything online. And then I got my associate degree, okay? I wasn't in school for a long time, but I had to trust God that God really wanted me to do this.
Right.
And I finished my associate degree. I graduated with 3.98, okay?
It's wonderful.
And then I got my psychology degree also as a bachelor degree. Finished that also with 4.0. And then I also finished my grad school and I earned my master's in organizational leadership, which was just this past May. Also,
Congratulations.
with honors. So thank God.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's
Amen.
amazing. And your boys?
The boys live with me. They both live with me. I have a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old. They're both in high school, so getting ready to leave.
Right.
And I am 32-year-old. I'm a 32-year-old with 2 teenagers, and that's how I got here.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yes.
What an amazing story that you've gone through so much in your life, and I don't feel like that's where your story ends.
No.
So tell us, you seem like the kind of person that you're a fighter because you needed to be. You're strong because you needed to be. And you had mentioned in the beginning that started way back when you were young, kind of, being exposed to all of those different things.
Yes.
So tell us and tell our viewers just, what's a message of hope that you have for people that might have gone through maybe not the exact same situation, but something similar? And, is that still who you are? Does that define you or not?
I would say that still defines me. I do know that I'm a very brave person. Life and situations and the places I grew up with, people that I grew up with, in the environment, everything has worked together for my good. But at the same time, I had to be really bold and very brave to make it through what God has for me. There's something about hope, and when you hold on to hope, I think the Bible says in Romans 5 verse 5, I believe that hope does not put to shame. Hope doesn't put to shame if you hold on to that hope. I always look towards the future. There's always better hope. I don't think that my problem is where I'm supposed to stay. Right. I don't believe that when I'm going through something, I'm supposed to just remain there. I'm supposed to rise. No matter how long it takes, even if I fall down, rise and fall down, I'm supposed to break out of it. So I think it also transfers into my life today, where I am teaching abstinence in schools. Now I can tell them maybe I'm not the teenager that got raped, or not the teenager that chose to be sexually active because they wanted to. I may not be that, but I have stories enough to encourage those teenagers, wherever they find themselves, that if you find yourself being bullied, if you find yourself being pressured to do things you don't want to do, you can still speak up. And if you find yourself making mistakes and taking routes that you don't want to take, you're not supposed to be taking, you can go back and make changes. I believe that there is more for every person. If you look for it, if you really want it, you will get it, because there's hope. And if you hold on to that hope, you cannot be put to shame. Hope is something that I hold on to. I always see more for myself, and I always hope for the better for myself and for people around me. So I always push myself and people around me to want the best for themselves. Doesn't mean that you're not content with the things that God has given to you. You're content with them, but also hope for better things, because the more you change, the more you work on yourself, the more people you can impact, the more things you can change. But it also helps to have accountability partners, people to keep you accountable. Go to counseling, pray, seek the face of God, because when things happen like this, all kinds of people come to help, but some people have different motives of why they want to help you. Right. And you have to be wise, and the only way to do that is to look for God and to speak to God, to seek Him, let Him give you discernment to choose those people who are there for you and the ones that are not there for you. But in all things, hold on to that hope. That's the only thing that can help, I think.
That's incredible. I absolutely agree.
Thank
100%. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I just have a feeling that this is going to impact so many people's lives and just give them hope for the future, no matter what they've gone through in their own lives. So thank you for your braveness and your boldness, and just the example that you're setting, not only for your own children, but for everybody else that you come into contact with. So I love that I got to meet you and got to get to know you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Sarah Seberg, and we will see you for the next episode of Kingdom Real.